Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on to better explain what's going on and talk about things that I think that are being done right and or done wrong. If you want to watch this video without me talking at all, you can go into my playlist and find this video presentation as it comes from HPD without any talking from me whatsoever, except for the very beginning where I explained to you that I'm not talking in this video at all. All right, let's get into it.
At approximately 11:24 a.m., Houston police officers received an aggravated assault in progress call from a gas station at 3150 South Derry Ashford. They arrived to find the suspect, Antonio Domenech, had fled the scene on foot. Officers located him at 11:31 a.m. near the intersection of South Derry Ashford and Westheimer. They attempted to take Mr. Domenech into custody, but he fled from them. Officers followed on foot. At one point, Mr. Domenech fell down. He stood up quickly, revealing he had an orange carving knife in his hand. Officers gave commands for him to drop the knife, but Mr. Domenech refused and ran into a cemetery at 12800 Westheimer. Officers followed Mr. Domenech, warning him not to run towards other citizens in the cemetery. Mr. Domenech shouted, "You gotta shoot me, you gotta kill me," before running further into the cemetery. Officers gave Mr. Domenech multiple commands to drop the knife, which he refused. Mr. Domenech repeatedly shouted, "Shoot me, kill me." Mr. Domenech charged at the officers with the knife in his hand. 3 officers discharged their duty weapons, striking Mr. Domenech. Officers rendered first aid. The Houston Fire Department arrived and transported Mr. Domenech to the hospital, where he was pronounced deceased. No officers were injured.
Hey, stop. Hey, you're just being detained, bro. Hey, don't fucking reach. Hey, don't fucking reach. Hey, don't fucking reach for anything. Hey, drop it! Drop that shit! Drop the knife! Drop the knife!
Well, that's hilarious. Let's see that again. Man, that ball came out of nowhere. Too bad he didn't knock his stupid ass out. That would have ended the situation beautifully.
Hey, drop it!
It's unfortunate that this just happened so quickly, and that one of those officers could not have quickly transitioned to a less than lethal, like a taser. And it's no fault to them. I mean, this was just a rapidly evolving situation, and both of them arrive kind of at the same time, and both of them are thinking from the same mindset. This guy's got a weapon. I need to be providing lethal cover. Cops can't think instantaneously, just like no one else can think instantaneously and come up with solutions at the snap of a finger. There's a process that goes on in people's heads, and some of that process is called is known as OODA loop. OODA: observe, orient, decide, and act. And there's some publications out there on how fast the human brain can process thoughts, and once it's processing a thought, how long it actually takes for the brain to send a signal down to the limb, and for that limb to do its thing, do whatever action the brain is telling it to do. So we can watch these videos multiple times and say things like, man, it'd be great if they could have pulled a taser out on this guy. But that's because we have the luxury of watching these videos in comfort, and we can hit replay multiple times. Something the officers do not have the capability of doing right then and there in the moment. So, nothing wrong on the officers for doing what they were doing, but if, one of them could have transitioned to less than lethal, they possibly could have brought this to an end right here. And I won't say possibly because sometimes the taser or the deployment of the taser doesn't work. The taser works. It's just the deployment of it. Sometimes the probes are too close together. Sometimes the probe misses. Sometimes the probe gets stuck in the clothing, and the clothing is baggy and it's nowhere near the skin, and so you're unable to achieve NMI, neuromuscular incapacitation. Tasers work. It's just the connections that sometimes don't always happen. It's a missed connection.
Drop that shit! Drop the knife! Drop the knife! We're not going to kill you, buddy. Drop the knife! One at gunpoint. Hold there! He has a knife.
Even here, now we got 3 more. The distance he has on him is not that great. Again, if one of them could have possibly deployed taser on him, I think they would have had enough distance here to be able to increase their likelihood of having the correct spread on the probes and achieving an MI. But at this distance, there's also the possibility of one probe missing.
Drop the knife! No. Put the knife down. What's up? Dan, stay right here. Dan, stay right here. Bro? Put it down. Drop it right now. Turn around and walk back towards us. Come on, man. Be cool.
You don't need
No, you're not. Just drop it.
Hey, man. Skip forward. So.
We're not going to anything. We don't back up. Hey, I'm going to grab taser.
And of all places, goes into a cemetery. When I first watched this, I literally laughed out loud. I said, "This guy's going to get killed in a cemetery." How ironic, like how, I don't know another way to describe it. Some people may even say it's spooky, that he ran off into a cemetery, and this is where he ultimately ends up dying. Or some could say this is foreshadowing his fate.
Cemetery. Hey, there's people over there. Be advised, we got some people out here in the cemetery. Be cool, man. We're not gonna shoot, dude. No, don't go towards them. Do not go towards them. Don't go towards them. Do not run towards them. Hey, y'all go away. Hey, we're good right here. Yeah, be bit. Hey, come on.
So at this point, him pulling the knife out and then making these statements, I personally do not believe that this guy had any true ideations to have himself unsubscribed from life. This was a stalling tactic that he was trying to use, which is very clear at this point right here. He has the knife out. He makes those suicidal statements, and then he continues to run away, trying to flee away from them. Now, there are moments where he does come towards them, but he doesn't come towards them aggressively enough for them to want to respond the way they should be responding. They don't fire, and then he flees some more. So you'll see this multiple times throughout the video until he does it with one person who doesn't act like the rest of them. But I really truly think that he was not trying to do the suicide by cop thing. I think that he was trying to stall. I think that he was trying to get them to back far enough away to where he could get a good running start and escape from them. And I'll touch more on that when it gets to the very end where he finally gets popped.
Hey, don't go towards him. Do not go towards him.
Watch the cross.
Do not go towards him, bro. Do not go. Drop the knife.
You're good. Just drop the knife, brother.
I know what it was. I told you I was going to kill you. It was not right. Wasn't that right? You're going to kill
Cool,
me.
man. We're just trying to talk. That's it.
No, you don't want to talk. You want to arrest me over that, man.
No, we don't. Put the knife down and we can talk. I promise you we'll just talk. Hey, look, we put the knife down, we put the guns down, and we just have a conversation, all right?
Stop pressing over.
Yep. Hey, I'm coming over.
Hey, look. Hey,
So this officer had recognized the fact that there was a situation for potential crossfire. And so he got off from where he was at and came over here and joined them. So good mindset for him, being aware of his muzzle, their muzzles, and their positioning and the suspect's positioning, and knowing that if that suspect moved in closer to them or to him, that potentially bullets could be going towards friendly forces. Nothing says you have to continue to stand where you are standing. Depending on the environment and the layout, you may not have much options to move around. But in a wide open space like this, a lot of dead space, you can certainly move around to your pleasure and stand where you want to stand, and put the odds in your favor.
stop walking forward. Just come talk to us.
No.
Hey, just do me a favor,
No.
drop the knife.
I'm not lying to you, bro. You put the knife down, we'll have a cordial, civilized, normal conversation, bro to bro, all right? We'll just have a conversation, and we'll talk about what you got going on.
So I think they do a pretty good job of trying to use the verbal judo, trying to de-escalate this guy as much as they can. But this guy is still talking about this other individual that he apparently got in this altercation with. And then he makes some more comments about wanting them to shoot him and etc. They move along. There's other people still in this cemetery, so they end up yelling at these people, trying to get them to move out of the way. I think it ends up being that some of them have some language barrier, because you see them come across and it looks as though maybe English is a second language for them, or at least it's not their primary language. Let me back this up some, because this is where he makes somewhat of a charge at them.
Wait for us, dog. We just want to help you.
We'll talk to you when you drop the knife.
Come on, man. Be cool. Be cool. We're not looking to do
Hey,
that.
drop the knife.
Drop it.
Drop it, bro. Drop it, bro.
Shoot me in the fucking head, please.
Drop it, bro.
We don't want to do that, man.
Shoot me, please.
No.
Chill.
Just drop the knife, man. Watch the civilian.
Relax. Hey, get in the van and go.
Kill me. Y'all gonna
Hey, get left.
kill me. I'm sorry.
No, just relax.
Oh, all right, bet.
No.
Stop.
No.
Get out of the way.
No.
Hang on, we're good. Hey, you got one person behind us still.
If you shoot that taser, it's on. You shoot that taser, it's on.
You hear that? Hey, just chill. Relax. Throw it away.
See how good your aim is.
Don't do it.
See how good your aim is.
We're not looking to do that, bro. Just come talk to us.
Hey, there's a family behind us.
Hey, we have to push up. We have to push up. They got a family back there.
Hey, swing, white left.
Hey, don't let him. Hey, get out of the way.
So you see how he pushed forward towards them, got them to back far enough away, and then he dipped through here and took off running again.
Get out the way! Get out the way! Move!
Go, 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 go. Go, 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 go.
Bro, chill.
So he made a pretty decent distance to over in here. And we're approaching his final moments here. So we saw how he aggressively pushed towards these officers initially, and they backed away quite a bit. And I think that he's got the mindset that he's going to try that again. And I suspect that he probably thinks if he gets them to push far enough away, he could probably jump in this car and take off in it.
Chill!
Hey,
Chill!
relax.
Chill!
Hey, stop!
Chill!
On the ground!
Drop the knife!
We don't want to shoot you. On the ground! We don't want to shoot you. On the ground!
So he makes this lateral move going this direction. Like I said, earlier we got to see him move towards them, and they backed away a lot. And I think that he thought that was going to happen again. And that was going to give him the opportunity to jump into this vehicle with the doors open and take off. I'm sure that at this moment, this became a complete shock to him.
See. Hold it.
Drop the knife!
We don't want to shoot you. On the ground! We don't want to shoot you. On the ground!
See.
Shoot you. On the ground! We don't want to shoot you. On the ground! We don't want to shoot you. On the ground!
See.
On the ground!
See.
We don't want to shoot you. On the ground!
See.
We don't want to shoot you. On the ground!
See.
We don't want to shoot you. On the ground!
See.
I want to shoot you. On the ground!
See.
I don't want to shoot you. On the ground!
See.
All right, so they fire some rounds. He is falling down to the ground, and some additional rounds are fired into him. There may be, well, there's no may to it. There is going to be a civil suit, which happens a lot, even in one, like, and this is still a 110% justified incident. But let's say that, even as he was falling, those additional rounds were not fired. Let's say they only fired but a few rounds, and then he went down. Even then, the family's still going to file a civil suit on this. But this civil suit that they're going to file, they are, of course, going to be pointing out that, they shot him while he was down. And they're going to claim excessive force, etc. And what is unfortunately likely to happen is the city government there, the Houston city government, will look to their insurance company with their attorneys, and the city's insurance will be like, you know what, let's just go ahead and settle out of court to avoid going to trial, and we'll give them some money. And then, of course, to all the anti-police people, They're going to look at that as some type of victory. They're going to say that that's some kind of sign that the police were wrong in what they did, and etc. Just because the municipality decides to settle out of court, it doesn't mean that the police were wrong. It just means that that city government is a little too weak to want to go to court, which is typically how insurance and attorneys are. They just want to do the easy thing. But I can see the family having issue with this. I don't particularly have a whole lot of issue with it myself. What I talked about earlier, the OODA loop, right? Like when he ran into that freaking wall and fell down, and talked about the officers. You know, it would have been great if they could have, one of them transitioned to a taser. The OODA loop, it takes time, right? You're observing, you're orienting, you're deciding, and you're acting. And your brain is sending signals throughout your body to cause fingers to squeeze trigger, your hand and arms and torso manipulating to keep that gun stabilized and put that sight on target, and then squeeze again, all while you're resetting, going through OODA loop again. And this has happened in other videos. You'll see people shoot, and as a person falls, 1 or 2 rounds are fired afterwards, within a very short, compressed amount of time. It's almost like almost like an instantaneous kind of thing. As they're going pop, 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 they're tracking their target, right? They're focusing on their sights, tracking that target, boom, 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 boom. And then that person will fall and or turn in a position like this, and their brain has already sent out signals as they're tracking. So when he was up in this position and was going a little bit further down, the brain is sending a message, shoot, shoot, shoot. And so he's doing shoot, shoot, shoot. And then his brain, before he can orientate and observe, orientate, and decide what's going on, one of them has already put rounds into this guy as he's down on the ground. But it quickly stops, right? It's not like they continue shooting with him being down on the ground with his back being kind of exposed, right? Now, if they continued to shoot while he's in this kind of position, appearing to be physically incapacitated, then yeah, there would be some issue with that. But it's almost so close in that time frame of him making that fall down to the ground, hitting that ground, rounds being fired, and then it stops, right? It's just the way the brain is under stress, and trying to explain that on a video to people who have not been in that headspace when fight, flight, freeze kicks in. So in this camera view, we get to see headstones, trees, a sign, a trash can, open car door, open cargo hatch, open car door, person, trees, headstones, sign, flowers, grass, other people if we were playing it. For this particular individual officer, all he can see is directly what is in front of him, with a Coke bottle vision. Imagine a paper towel tube, right? Like you know, everyone's had paper towels in their homes before. When you get to the end of the paper towel, it's a cardboard tube. Imagine you've got 2 of those, and you got them together like they're binoculars, and you bring them up to your eyes, and you're looking through those things. That is the kind of vision you get during fight, flight, freeze syndrome. You start to lose your peripheral vision. You start to really focus in on the threat, the target. And sometimes this happens so acutely that in gunfights, you see people with their hands and their arms shot up because they were holding the weapon in that hand, and that was what the person defending themselves focused their sights on, was that gun in the hand or the knife in the hand. And generally, you know, what eyes focus on and is what the rest of the body will orientate and start directing things towards. And so you can see, like I said, a lot of arms and hands shot up during gunfights. It's just like when someone is out in the middle of the country, flat land, only one tree around, they lose control of their vehicle and they smack that one tree, the one and only tree, within a 300-yard radius. Why did they smack into that tree? Because they were focused on that damn tree. Their eyes were locked on it, and because their eyes were locked on it, subconsciously, inadvertently, their hands start moving the steering wheel towards that tree. On the side of the road, when police have someone pulled over, like how many times have you seen videos of someone driving down the road and they come across a traffic stop and they slam right back into the rear of the police car? Their eyes are focused on the car, they're rubbernecking, trying to see what's going on, and as they're focused on that, they start gravitating and pulling in towards that vehicle and smack the back of the police car. And that kind of stuff is happening to people under cool, calm conditions, right? Like, they are not under the effect of fight, flight, freeze. But those little things happen, right? And so just imagine under fight, flight, freeze, the kind of vision and everything, changes that are occurring, really focused on small area, and things may be slowing down for you, things may be speeding up for you. Some people don't hear the gunshots at all. Some people don't think the gunshots are very loud. There's been times where people fired their gun and thought maybe they had a squib and stopped firing because they thought there was a round stuck in the barrel because it just did not seem that loud to them. So it's really hard to, like I said, describe some of this stuff and how it happens to people who've never had an adrenaline dump, who've never had this fight, flight, freeze syndrome kick in on them. I would implore you to do some more of your further research. Read some books by Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, and learn for yourself. You know, like how the brain works, the OODA loop, stuff like that, and you know, you put it all together and you review cases like this, and you can see like how this happens. And again, like I said earlier, we have the luxury of hitting replay and pausing multiple times. You don't get that in real life. And sometimes little things like this happen. It does not mean that these officers had evil intent or anything like that. It's just it's human nature. Like, these things happen. And like I said, even though 1 to 2 rounds were let loose as he was falling and getting to the ground, it did stop. They did not continue to pump rounds into this guy while he's laying down. But unfortunately, the anti-police crowd, the anti-gun people, they'll latch on to this one little tiny moment.
Shoot you on the ground.
See.
Fire.
Hold it. Hey, slow it down.
That's still in play. We're still doing verbal commands.
Hey, I got lethal. You guys check yourself. I got lethal.
Yep.
Random medical aid.
Hey, get gloves.
I got midnight.
All right, so everyone's shouting stuff, you know, hey, let's do this, do that, do this, do that. They know they need to go in. They know they need to take them into custody. They know they need to start rendering medical aid. It doesn't seem apparent to me that there is anyone there who is in a command type of position, like someone who has stripes on their sleeves. So I would say it's probably all just regular basic patrol officers, no one of rank. However, out of that group, one of them, I would think, has to have more years on than the others and may be more senior to the others, and should ideally be the one who starts to assume that kind of role. If one of them is an FTO, a field training officer, that is a person who is supposed to be teaching and stuff, and so if one of them was an FTO, that is the person who needs to step up and take that rank kind of role and start directing these officers on what they need to be doing. When you look at NIMS, National Incident Management System, this is where ICS, Incident Command System, can come into play. One of them is going to be the incident commander, right? Who can also double as planning. They're thinking in their head about what they're going to do, and then also somewhat fulfill the role of kind of operations, right? But more specifically, they kind of be more of the person in this operations role, being the one who's going to be calling out the shots. I really like the LAPD videos because you get to see this model played out pretty well by those guys. You'll most often see some type of sergeant, some type of supervisor on scene doing this. But I think I've even seen a couple where there wasn't a sergeant or anyone on scene, and you see them still do the same thing. So that tells me they trained for doing this. But you'll see someone take this command role, and they'll start giving assignments to people. They'll tell someone that they're providing lethal cover, and then they'll tell someone else that they're providing less lethal cover, and then they'll designate 1 to 2 people to go hands-on to place handcuffs on someone, and then they'll turn around and tell someone else that they're operating the radio. So they create a little team, a little arrest team to come in. They got people providing lethal cover, they got people providing less than lethal, people going hands-on, and someone operating the radio so that not everyone else has to be on the radio at that time. That is, I think, the way to do it. I think that is the best way to do it. Number one, you are designating someone as lethal cover, and that one person only, is going to be the one who's going to be pulling the trigger in the event things go bad. Because as you're getting closer to this person, you don't want a whole bunch of guns popping off, right? You start getting way too close, you start running into crossfire issues. So only one person can start pumping rounds, then that's going to be better. Pump rounds, get back, get some distance, maybe take cover if need be, and then everyone else can get their guns out and do some gunplay too if they need to. Having someone on the less lethal, right? Like, you may not have to use lethal force as you get up on someone. As you get up on that someone and you're telling them to put their hands out, etc., and they don't, we can go ahead and pop them with a taser. And you can tell that either A, are they playing possum or not, because I don't care what kind of pain tolerance you've got. Getting popped with a taser all of a sudden without knowing that it's going to be happening, and you're conscious, like you're going to do something, right? Like you're going to yelp, you're going to, after the cycle has stopped, you will move in some manner, right? Like there's going to be a reaction to that. And in some other instances, you've seen people utilize bean bags and stuff to gauge a response out of the person when they're laying on the ground and not moving, trying to figure out if they're playing possum. So that's one use of the less lethal itself, and then the other use, of course, is utilizing a less than lethal option to use force against them to gain compliance, to take them into custody. Taser is great for arresting under power. You pop them, you achieve NMI, neuromuscular incapacitation. They can't move their limbs, they can't control their limbs, and then you come in and cuff under power. Designating, people to go hands-on, this gives them the time to put on their PPE, their personal protective equipment, put gloves on. No one needs to be rushing forward and putting hands on this guy with bare hands. This guy has blood everywhere. He has bodily fluids everywhere. We don't know if this guy's clean or not. We have to assume that everybody has something. Everyone has AIDS. Everyone has hepatitis. Everyone's got HIV. Everyone's got the worst of the worst. You have to assume everyone has something. And especially with the criminal element, right? Like, criminals are out there making bad decisions in life, obviously. So that stands to say that they've probably made some bad decisions in terms of sexual relations, having unprotected sex with prostitutes or, lots of different strangers, or sharing needles, stuff like that. No need to rush in and quickly give yourself HIV. That's no risk in that. Like, don't do that. This person, they knew what they were getting into when they did this thing, right? They brought this upon themselves. They got themselves shot. If they didn't want that to happen, they would have complied. They would have done what they're supposed to do. So they can lay there and bleed for all I care, while the good guys put on personal protective equipment to protect themselves and their families. How crappy would it be to get HIV at work? And if you're married, never be able to have unprotected sex with your spouse. And if you're married without kids, but you want to have kids, well, then that creates a huge problem right there, right? How are you going to conceive a child if you have contracted HIV? Is your spouse who doesn't have it, are they going to be like, all right, I guess we're both going to have it, and we're going to have the risk of giving it to our child when we give birth? No. What if you're not even married yet? What if you're single? What person is going to be like, yeah, you know what, I think I want to marry you and be with you for the rest of my life when you have HIV? It's literally a life ender. All right, like when you die from AIDS, it's right, like people die from that. Your quality of life, dead. You're a young guy. You're on the prowl. Like, it's done with. Like, nobody's going to want you. And like, the only way I think that you could move forward in relationships and stuff is you'd have to find someone else who's infected with that, right? Like, who? Think about it. Like, you meet someone on a date, and they're like, "Hey, so At work, I got HIV, so I'm HIV positive. Do you really think that you're going to engage in a relationship with them, continue it, get intimate with them? Probably not. So no need to risk infecting yourself with some bloodborne pathogen. Take the time to put the gloves on. They can bleed out during that time. Don't care. You and your family come first. Like I said, this guy, he knew what he was buying into. He brought this upon himself. Put your gloves on. Stop getting into a hurry to try and catch AIDS.
Hold that hand.
You got gloves, you got gloves. I'm gonna arm. Hey, time to get on arm.
Cuffs are on.
Hey, does anybody you have a med kit?
Hey, do me a favor. Hey,
Down by the shop.
listen. Quick. Don't put it on my. To the front right here to the medical.
Hey, I'm putting the knife in your shop.
Hey, let's get him in the shop.
Here's the evidence in the vehicle here. And then we see another officer's body cam here.
Chill! On the ground!
See.
On the ground!
See.
On the ground! Chill! On the ground!
Ceasefire. Hold it. Hey, shots fired. Knife's still in play. We're still doing verbal commands. Hey, I got lethal. You guys check yourself. I got lethal.
So again, going back to what I was talking about, identifying one person to be on the radio, like someone has hit the emergency button, like you hear that tone going off in the background. For those who don't know what the emergency tone is, the radios have a little orange button on them, and you press that button, and it sends out an alert tone. And it's supposed to tell everyone, hey, shut up, get off the radio, there's something priority going on here. Or dispatch can even generate a tone from the dispatch terminal to kind of like get everyone's attention, like, hey, everyone shut up, blah, 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 blah. So you've got the tone going off, and you got multiple people you can hear in the background trying to talk on the radio, and it's just a cluster, a complete cluster when it comes to that. So going back to what I said earlier, designating one person as the radio operator, like that's your job. You are to operate that radio so that no one else has to mess with this thing.
Medical aid.
Get gloves. I got the knife.
Get the knife. I got cuffs. Get that pad done.
I'm gonna arm. Hey, time to get on arm.
Cuffs are on.
Hey, does anybody
Yeah.
the shop's ready to make it? Hey, does anybody have a med kit?
Hey,
Down by the shop.
Listen.
One last
Bájala. Tranquilo. Fuck out. Chill the fuck out. Chill the fuck out. Chill the fuck out. Drop it. Drop it. I don't want to shoot you. Drop. This fire.
He had the proper response. The minute that dude turned and began to advance directly on him, he said, you know what? This is my line in the sand. That's it. You're getting shot. Personally, I think when this guy tried this stunt with the other ones way earlier in the video, that should have been their line in the sand. They should have started shooting at that point.
This fire. Hold it. This fire. Hey, slow it down.
Fuck.
Hey.
Lethal, you guys check your
Lethal, hey. Random medical aid. Medical aid.
Get gloves.
Hey, let me. Who got hands? Pull it up. Pull it down. Fuck, dude. Where his hit?
In the arm.
Hey, fuck, dude. Where's medical at? have a med kit? Hey, do shot. We're gonna bring him to the front right here so that medical could get him. Hey, I'll put it in. Quick, real quick. We're gonna put him in my shop. We're gonna bring him to the front right here so that medical could get him. Hey, I'll put it in. All right, shot. Hey, let's get him in. Let's get him in the shop. Let's get him in the shop.
So he wants to pick this guy up and throw him in the police car and drive out of the cemetery and go to the front so they can get to the ambulance quicker. That is not a good option at all. When you think about pre-hospital care, ambulance care here in the U.S., and, well, even across the world, but we'll stick to the U.S., before the 1970s, pre-hospital care was interesting. It was the 1970s that we saw legislation kind of creating the organization for standards for EMS care, right? Where we start getting into ambulance stuff, like EMT, stuff like that. All across the nation, you would have in some areas they were using something like an ambulance, a little bit more advanced in other places. Usually it's going to be your large cities and stuff like that. Typically large cities kind of trend a little bit better on things. But before the 1970s, there was not this use of ambulances across the board. You go back into the 30s and 40s, and even the 50s and 60s. But let's go back to the 1930s and 40s. It was a common thing when someone was hurt, someone was injured after a car wreck or something else like that. When you called for help, it was common for the funeral home to show up in their hearse, because a hearse has a big long flat area in the back of the vehicle to lay you in and transport you somewhere. Like, no shit, like that was the standard operating procedure for a lot of places. Oh, we got a car wreck, we got some victims, let's call the funeral home and send the hearse out. And so, and that's why when you start looking at like the history of ambulances and stuff, that's why you see some of the earliest ambulances, they were just converted hearses. Literally like a hearse that was made for funerals, had some modifications and was converted into an ambulance. And then you start getting more customized vehicles and stuff later on. But that's where it started at. They would pick a victim up, throw them in the back, and haul ass, go to the hospital. And as time went on and things were improving and progressing, then it started getting into putting someone in the back of this thing, and then like rescue squads were forming, and little things like that, but they were still using the hearses, and you'd have members who were on the rescue squad who were, with the funeral home, but you would eventually get, people who would be in the back with them, right? But that level of training was just not centralized and made as good as it was until the 1970s occurred. So, when you pick someone up who is injured and you throw them in the car and take off, you are essentially providing to them 1930s era medical care. You're just throwing them in the car and taking off as fast as you can. That's it. That's not that great. You need someone providing care for them. And the back of a police car is not a really good place to be providing care for someone. If it's got the hard, rigid plastic seats in there, it's not that easy to lay flat in those things. And so, you you try to put someone in there who's unconscious and they're flopping around, they're going to very likely easily roll into the floor, and they do that. Now you're going to be, thinking about their airway. Is their airway compressed because their head's bent sideways or, all the way forward? It's just a mess. Like, the back of a police car is not the place to be performing pre-hospital care. So don't be thinking about throwing someone in the back of the car and then taking off and just leaving them in the back. It's just not going to work out the way you think it's going to be working out. Like I said, you're essentially only providing to them 1930s era medical care. And then the simple fact that vehicle at that point is going to be out of commission pretty much for a while until it can be properly deconned. There's actually some pretty cool channels on YouTube for decon, cleaning up biohazards out of vehicles. One of them, it's like Spalding Decon, I think it is. They've got a YouTube channel, which is pretty cool to go watch, see how they do the crime scene cleanup or like the death scene cleanup stuff. But they got some videos on there where they do the vehicles and everything, and it's a tedious process to fully decontaminate a vehicle that's had biomaterial all inside of it. It just gets everywhere, and it can go into some crevices, and you don't want contaminated surfaces like that inside your vehicle. There are bloodborne pathogens that can still contaminate even after the blood has been dried. Like, it's still alive. So you put someone in the vehicle, that vehicle it's out of service. It's no simple, like, you pour some water in and scrub it and it's done. Like, you got to go through a process to decon that vehicle. In some places they may say, you know what, this is just too much for the vehicle. We're going to turn this on insurance and just get us another one. The proper thing to do is just treat them right there. When you start getting into the Platinum 10 and the Golden Hour and everything, that first 10 minutes of pre-hospital care matters a lot. And it's, as I said earlier, it's hard to provide care in the back seat of a car, especially if that car has one of those rigid plastic seats in the back that has like the little recessed areas for people's butts to fit into. Like, it's just not going to work out. Now here we're going to get into probably the more interesting part of this video, and it's a part that it annoys me, it upsets me, it angers me. So let's see what it is.
Dude. Oh my God. What's it hit? It's in the head. Ah, fuck that. Shit, man. Come on, bro. Hey, let's get him in the shop. Somebody grab the legs. Oh my God, dude.
Alright, so this officer's coming up with a tourniquet.
It's not that main entrance where everybody's going.
Yeah. Shit, bro.
Oh, no, none of us are hurt.
Okay, take a deep breath. You got anything? Cheyenne, you good?
Where did you get at? Hit in the head. Hit in the head and the side. Hey, stay with us, bro. Hey. Hey. Fuck, dude.
Hey, send HIV into the cemetery.
Bro, we need medical now for him. Alright? Hey, somebody wait medical in here. Move the shops out of the way.
Gauze or anything?
Huh? We need gauze. We need gauze. Give me gauze.
I have it in my shop.
Fuck, bro, dude. Hopefully it makes it, bro.
Shop on team management.
Hey, he's breathing. Hey, stay with us, man.
Good, bud.
Stay with us.
Hey.
Holy shit. Holy shit. That is a hot mess. That dude thinks that's the way a tourniquet goes on. Holy shit. That's horrible. Imagine if he had to use a tourniquet on himself or one of his coworkers. They'd be dead. This is not how you put on a tourniquet. He just wrapped it all the way around. There's no way to turn the windlass. How? How do you screw this up? How? What? I'm like, where do I start at? What kind of training has been provided to them on how to use tourniquets? Like, if this was an in-person class, how do you how's this happen? Like, if he went to an in-person class and they brought out training tourniquets and said, hey, this is how you do it. Like, how do you forget that process? Even if it was a video and you watch it being utilized or being taught how to be utilized, how do you forget that? It's a very simple device. So if this guy went to in-person training, then it must have been a very large class, too many students for just one instructor, and he goofed off. Didn't pay attention, did not do a practical skills test on it, did not have to skill out on this and demonstrate that he knew how to do it. If it was a classroom where they just watched a video, well, then whoever was administering the training did not ensure that everyone was watching, because if he was watching how to do this, he would know how to put it on. So what was he, if it was a classroom where you watch a video, what was he doing? Playing on his phone? Talking to someone? If they were having to do it online, what did he do? Turn his computer on, hit play, and let the video play while he walked away and went and did something else? This is egregious. Like, this is atrocious. This is negligence. Hell, this is horrible. I mean, I don't really care about the suspect any. I mean, they mentioned he got popped in the head, like he's pretty much done. But what I said earlier, what if he got shot in the leg? He's got a femoral artery hit and he's bleeding out seriously, or his partner over here has been shot. This is how he's going to apply a tourniquet. Might as well not even try. This is doing nothing. Out of all the stuff in this video, this is the worst thing. I've never seen this before. Like this. I don't know what else to say. I really don't. Like, I'm almost speechless at this point. Like, that's horrible, man. That's just straight fucking horrible that he cannot put on a tourniquet. You should definitely know how to apply a tourniquet. Your life may depend on it. The life of your coworker may depend on it. It is one thing. It's one thing to just go through a very, very, very basic medical training course that just teaches some bare bone basics. And then it's another thing to go through something of equivalent of like an EMT kind of course. Yeah, with the EMT course, you're getting a lot of instruction, several hours. But that's also going into a bunch of fluff for what they're going to be needing for their job. Like, they don't need to know about sample, right? They don't need to know the acronym sample. They don't need to know about how to put an oxygen tank together, and what 15 LPM stands for, what a nose cannula is, and or why a rebreather is better than a nose cannula. That stuff is great knowledge to have, but it's not something they need. And so when you start looking at the lesser stuff, usually what agencies do is they just do a CPR, AED, first aid class. You know, they may have some of their officers become instructors from American Heart Association or American Red Cross, and they'll do their annual training, right? They probably get their initial CPR, AED, first aid at the academy, but then once they come back to the agency, someone in-house is probably an instructor, or they may pay some outside instructor to come in and do these classes for them. And it is just a basic checkbox kind of thing for an agency to do. Like, hey, we got people who are trained in CPR, AED, first aid. Well, the first aid training for American Heart and Red Cross is not all that great. And I know because I used to be an instructor for both of them. It's just very, very, very basic stuff. And the courses, they do have information on tourniquets and stuff like that, but it's not required for you to learn it. But you can if you ask about it. So, with that being said, it's possible that all they've had is CPR, AED, first aid training, and that's it. That checked the box for that agency. And some agencies to keep their accreditation, that's one of the checkbox things. Like, you got to have everyone trained in CPR, AED, first aid. And they're like, okay, we'll just do the bare basics, right? Like, well, that's all it says, CPR, AED, first aid. We'll do that. Well, that's not good enough for armed professionals, because that basic first aid material in those classes is not geared towards armed conflict. It is geared towards workplace accidents, like falling off a ladder, cutting yourself with a knife or a saw, stuff like that. It does not go into traumatic injury like gunshot wounds, things like that. So in order to become better trained in the use of tourniquets and pressure bandages, occlusive dressings, stuff like that, there's an area that's kind of in between your basic CPR, AED, first aid, and something like a medical first responder, which is a lower step down from EMT basic. And it follows along the lines of TCCC, Tactical Combat Casualty Care, where you just learn the true bare bone basics of how to stop the bleeding. March, right? You follow the march, MARCH. First thing is massive bleeding. That's the first thing you address, and you learn how to do that. Then you go in the airways, and so forth. But that costs extra money. So a lot of agencies, they do the CPR, AED, first aid, and they're like, all right, we're good. We got people who are medically trained. But they really don't know anything about how to treat gunshot wounds. And there's this class that they could take or have an instructor come in to teach it, but it costs a whole lot more money than a CPR class. And agency chiefs are like, no, we don't need that. We sent the guys through first aid training. They're good. We got this. So there's a lot of people out there who just don't get good training. But there are some places out there that do it right. Like they bring in outside instructors. They may have their local ambulance provider put on a class for them, teach them how to do tourniquets. There may be people on the agency who used to be in the military and had combat lifesaver training, and so they may be able to put on kind of like a little course for their shift to teach them how to use tourniquets, stuff like that. You need to know how to use a tourniquet. Like, absolutely. You need to know how to use a windlass tourniquet, and you need to know how to use an elastic tourniquet. You need to know how to use a pressure bandage, how to use gauze, how to insert a nasopharyngeal airway or a oropharyngeal airway. You need to know how to apply an occlusive dressing. These are important things that can save your coworker's life, can save your family. If you're an armed citizen, or even if you're off-duty armed professional, and you come across someone out there in public who doesn't like you and attacks, you need to know how to use these things. You need to have a basic understanding of the human anatomy. I'm a firm believer that if you are going to carry a gun for a living, you need to carry some medical gear of some sort for a living as well. You need to know how to induce trauma and reduce trauma. You should be as well trained and versed with your gun as you are your first aid kit. EMS response times are pretty lengthy. 5 to 10 minutes. You can bleed to death in 90 seconds from a femoral artery hit if you don't put a tourniquet on and put it on correctly. This is unacceptable. Alright, that's it. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.